Alright, hey guys, what's up? I'm here to do a personal audio commentary track for the Andrew Gordon and Barry J. Gills Canadian shot on 8mm exploitation gore surreal horror film Things from 1989. Now, I should just go ahead and turn the TV down a little bit. You should have already started the film, and you should be at the scene with the woman in the devil mask at this point, but, basically this is, one of my absolute all-time favorite bad movies. There are a lot of people who trash this film, and I can see why. This is definitely not a very easy to grasp film. It's not like it's a David Lynch level kind of psychological thriller. It isn't Mulholland Drive. This isn't Mulholland Drive. This isn't Eraserhead. I feel like this film was more equal parts like really any shot on video film, mixed with a little bit of maybe Lynch kind of surrealism and Ed Wood levels of just ineptness. The film is just so entertaining for me personally. This is why I decided just suddenly to do an audio commentary track since I was planning on rewatching the movie tonight anyway. But an interesting fact about this opening scene here: the girl in the devil mask. The reason she's actually wearing the devil mask is because she's a prostitute, and she didn't want anybody who saw the movie to see that knew her, who might end up seeing the movie to see that she was in it. So she demanded when they hired her and paid her to be in this movie to show up nude, because they wanted to have a woman show up nude in the film, and they didn't know how, so they figured, oh, let's get a hooker. When they did that, they just decided she was like, when they hired her and paid her for this, they're like, no, we don't want any sex, we just want you to appear naked in our film. And they let her wear the mask. You know, she's like, as long as I can cover my face. And they let her wear the mask, and they figured that made the opening scene a lot more interesting and surreal. And honestly, I think it does add something in its kind of just absolute terribleness. I feel like this movie wouldn't work if it was, oh, there's a evil baby hand and the guy screaming. I feel like this movie really wouldn't work if it was, made on a bigger budget. Like, it can't make a movie like this on a big budget, because it just doesn't, I don't think it would work. You have to really mess up at making a movie in order to make something this just fantastic. This is one of those movies where during production everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and I will get more into that later. But here we are with Andrew Jordan, who is the director of the film, who also stars in the film. He's opening some cabinets, and looking inside. Nothing really interesting, but the music in the background is pretty good. I like the soundtrack of this film. It is far from a perfect soundtrack, and it is no Suspiria soundtrack. It is no Goblin score. It is not, you know, the soundtrack to The Witch, which I would recommend as much as this film, but both for different reasons. Both films are very good, but we're here to talk about Things, which is why I'm doing this audio commentary track. I honestly do not know why they did the lighting like this with the reds and blues. I've heard some people theorize that it was because of Suspiria, but I've always heard that Andrew Jordan and Barry J. Gillis, I believe. I always heard that well, I know that they met in high school, and they're very good friends in high school, and that they became friends over horror films. But I always remember reading about them really being into a lot of exploitation films, gore films, revenge films, and one of their favorite movies of all time, which is an obvious inspiration on this film, is Evil Dead, as well as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which there's actually a special feature on the DVD release from Severin Films, or aka Intervision, which is like their kind of thing when they're releasing like old shot on 8mm, shot on video films. There's a special feature on here where that is let's see, testimonials on things, interviews with Tobe Hooper. Um, Tobe Hooper, the director of Hobo with a Shotgun, and a Canadian exploitation film expert and stuff like that. But when I first read about this, I was like, oh, Tobe Hooper's a fan of this movie. But as it turns out, it is actually just a video of Tobe Hooper reacting to the trailer for Things, and Barry J. Gillis and Andrew Jordan basically telling him like this movie was heavily inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, by you making a film on a low budget. And his reaction to it is just, honestly, for me, it's just pretty priceless. Another interesting thing about this movie is, though, there's a pretty big name under the form, well, at least in the adult film industry, that is in this film. Amber Lynn, I believe she is in her 50s now, I think. She is in this film as well as the newscaster. I don't know how the hell they got the adult film star Amber Lynn to be in this film, but they did. I'd also like to mention that the credits for this film look like they were done in Microsoft Word art, and that is one of the beautiful, beautiful things about this, about the intro to this film. That and the fact that it is literally just them sticking their camera out the window and recording. I will admit that while this is one of my all-time favorite bad movies, it is kind of slow to start. I mean, that intro with the naked woman and the monster and the cradle, that's, interesting. And then it kind of slows down with the two main guys. I can't even remember their names. I know one of them is played by Barry J. Gillis, who, again, is one of the, I believe he's one of the writers and the producers on the film as well. But I'm really glad that this film has come to DVD. Really, really glad. It is just such an amazingly bad movie. But here we have Amber Lynn talking as if she is on the news, but really she's just kind of standing in front of like what looks like a shelf of a thrift store where they're keeping the used TVs that they get in the thrift store. I used to actually work at a thrift store, and it was had a very similar look like that in the background of that scene, but that's what it kind of looks like. It doesn't look like a news station. At this point, they're almost to the cabin in the woods, and soon enough, this film will actually make connections to the Evil Dead. The front of this cabin and the interior are actually two different things. The outside is actually somebody's actual cabin in the woods that they asked, hey, could we record, could we film our movie outside of your cabin? And the people said, oh, sure. And then the shots from the inside with the curtains that are obviously blue tarp, that is the inside of, I believe, Andrew Jordan's house, or I forget whose house it was. I know it was the interior of somebody's house, but basically this is where the connections to the Evil Dead come in, with them going to the cabin in the woods and there being all kinds of spooky shit going on. But one of the most interesting and weirdest things about this movie is the fact that they open the freezer to look for beer, and they find, and honestly, I don't think you would put beer in the freezer, but instead they find a book called The Horror of 1,000 Ugly Brutal Gods, which is like a book apparently about Aleister Crowley's murders that he committed before he died. The thing is, Aleister Crowley as a actual historical figure and a figure kind of symbol of the occult, he actually never really killed. He never killed anybody. And then they find the tape recorder in it. And then, oh, I'm being possessed. Obvious connection to the Evil Dead right there with the book. but you know, he's reading the book or listening to the tape, and right here is where it is mentioned. Oh, isn't this like that weird movie that you like? You know, that movie you like, the weird one with all those weird things. And then that Barry J Gillis mentions that, and then the other guy mentions, oh, they find a tape recorder in the basement with a bunch of satanic chants on it, a bunch of like satanic rituals recorded onto this tape, and then they play it, and some spooky stuff starts happening. Obvious reference to The Evil Dead. Basically, I like to consider this film the kind of Canadian ripoff of The Evil Dead, and it is beautiful. It's just as good as The Evil Dead, but in different ways. While The Evil Dead, to this day, still creeps me out and is brutally violent, and the effects, I personally think, in the original Evil Dead still hold up to this day. The effects in this movie do not hold up. The acting doesn't hold up. And while, you know, people broke into the cabin that they were filming The Evil Dead in and stuff like that, and like stole a bunch of stuff, you know, while there was stuff that happened during the production and the filming of The Evil Dead, like in the original Evil Dead, they were when like Ash shoots through the window with a shotgun. That is actually a real shotgun round. They are actually using live ammunition for the shotgun in that film. You know, while they were doing stupid stuff like that, and they were actually, uh, excuse me, they were, you know, making, like, there was a lot of stuff that went wrong during the production of movies like The Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it doesn't reach the level of, like, everything, absolutely everything going wrong until you see Things from '89. And here's where they mention the underground kind of television stations of murder, snuff, bestiality. This is, at least I think, a reference to Cronenberg's Videodrome. I forget what year Videodrome came out in, but that if the human brain is exposed to ultraviolet light, a human's lifespan will double. Scientists all over the world are. Oh, sorry, I was checking something. Let me check what year. And then suddenly Amber Lynn's like speech about medical experiments and stuff is just suddenly interrupted with this very, very important scene of this man just having all the skin removed from his hand for some reason. Um, very, very cheesy scene. Like, what even is he using to skin this man's hands or pull the flesh off of? Oh no, Okay, that's a bug. See, there are things in this movie that I never really noticed after a few times around, until like I watched it a couple times. I never really noticed that was a bug on his hand, so I guess the bugs were eating at him or something. This movie, to this day, after me watching it so many times, still does not make much sense, and I still really, really enjoy it. Here's one of the very, very first gore scenes in the film, and I think this basically kind of makes the statement, sets the level of what you should expect from this movie, which is basically absolutely nothing. You shouldn't expect anything good from this movie. I mean, you got severed heads hanging from the ceiling, and these severed heads look like the kind of stuff you would find in a Halloween store for like 10, 20 bucks. I really hope that one day I can make a movie this bad. Here's the part where they cut off the man's hand with the paper cutter, which I always thought would be a cool thing to see in a movie. You know, and I never really saw it before. I like how they cut it off really like halfway at the forearm too. But with the budget and what they could do, they could only get like a fake hand that was cut at the wrist. You know, that's a very funny, interesting continuity error that I actually did not notice until quite recently. There are some things about this movie that I'd never really noticed before. And here's the eyeball being ripped out. All these severed heads hanging from the ceiling, they look like Halloween store props. Now, what was I doing? I was checking what year Videodrome came out. Videodrome came out in '83. This film came out in 1989. So I get the feeling that whole underground snuff TV like television channel thing that they mentioned earlier. I definitely think that might have been a reference to Videodrome. Videodrome again being another very very surreal, interesting little film. And another film that I could highly recommend, just like this one, but again for a different reason. Videodrome is a very serious kind of social commentary on television and the effect television has on your brain. Well, this movie is just cheap, stupid trash that I absolutely just cannot get enough of. I really, really hope that one day Andrew Jordan really and Barry J. Gillis really do come back together and make a sequel to Things. I really, really, really hope that we get a sequel to Things eventually, because it's one of those movies that I honestly think, while that doesn't need a sequel, I think it's one of those movies that like needs a sequel. Like, it would not need a sequel, but one of the movies that doesn't need a sequel, but it deserves a sequel. Personally,
Where do you steal his chair from? Taking Wally's advice and back home with him. This place is boring.
This place is boring. I always really like how they mention, like, oh, isn't this Salvador Dali's famous painting that was burnt, that was supposedly like destroyed years ago, and it's like literally just a poster that they tacked to the wall.
Where he used to live was this last house on the left.
You know, where he used to live is this last house on the left. Again, another reference to a classic horror from Wes Craven's Last House on the Left. Classic rape and revenge film. But, you know, there are quite a few references to other horror films. Some of them you don't even notice the first few times you watch this movie. But, I've always really enjoyed. There's the drinking bird, which that's one of those novelty items you always see in movies and stuff. You never really can find it. I've actually found it at a toy store downtown, but again, that is unrelated to what we were talking about, which is this movie. I really like how this is supposed to be kind of like a creepy cabin in the woods, but this looks like some house in a suburban neighborhood. But if it seems like so far, if it seems like the audio is out of sync or something, or like it's been dubbed over, that can actually be explained. But first, I just gotta enjoy this. Now, the one guy just mentioned, you know, how, like, he got this painting, this Salvador Dali painting from the Queen of England, like his brother did, and that's like, what the hell, like, why would you write that in a movie? Thing is, according to, a bit according to legend, and a bit according to, the audio commentary for the film from the directors, which is an audio commentary I would honestly recommend, they actually lost the audio to this film. I do not know how shooting on 8mm works. I do not know if you can actually capture it with the film. I honestly do not think that is how it works, and it might be stupid for me to say that, but I like how he's patting his lap, saying, like, come here, to the dog. But they apparently had lost the audio to this film, the original audio, so they had to re-record the audio, and according to Andrew Jordan and Barry J. Gillis, they actually re-recorded the audio without a script while absolutely shit-faced, which is really, really interesting, because this movie is about a bunch of Canadians sitting around saying a bunch of random shit while drinking beer, which is literally what they were doing while recording the dub, recording the dub for this film. I also really like how he waters down the beer, and he's just suddenly like, this is really good. Like, what the fuck, man? Um, I'd also like to mention that the song "You Got Yourself in a Tailspin," um, that this song, I like this song, even though it is just the same shit over and over. From what I don't know about this, like the actual film, the thing they're watching on TV, I've heard that is something that they actually shot for like a short film that they were gonna do earlier, but they completely forgot about it. But they completely like didn't finish it or something. At least that's what I have heard. This was something that they shot for a short film and they didn't finish, and they just decided to use it here, which I think is a good way to use, film or something like that for like if you never completed a film, put it in the background. A good example of this is in the Jimmy Screamer Claus. His most recent film, When Blackbirds Fly. He actually has a film that he did years ago called Dog Shit and Groundhog's Day Massacre. But Jimmy Screamer Claus, he has this film he did years ago called Dog Shit, and he never completed this film. Fuck. He never completed this film, and when he did his most recent film, When Blackbirds Fly, since it is like partially, since it is kind of partially based on his film Dog Shit, he decided to make it. He decided to put like. See, he decided to make. He decided to put clips of it in the background on like TVs and stuff in order to just, keep things in the background interesting as well as to reuse footage so that way you didn't have to use the same kind of boring shit over and over on different screens. But, oh, here's where they make the sandwiches with nothing on it. But from what I've heard, like how many films that have cult followings, they have like midnight screenings and stuff like that. This film, from what I've heard, fans of this film, which refer to themselves as Thingites, they actually have parties where they get together and watch this movie. And when they do that, they make sandwiches out of nothing but bread, and they basically eat bread sandwiches and drink beer while watching this movie, which I'm 100% sure is what they were doing when they recorded the dub track to this film, was drinking beer and eating bread sandwiches. Shit, my, yeah, I think we're still good here. But, shit, man. I've always really enjoyed bad movies, if that wasn't obvious. But by, what I do with my channel. But still, I really dig the lighting in this film. Oh yeah, and this is where he puts the dead cockroach, like, on a sandwich or whatever. It's been a while since I watched this movie. It has been a few months, actually. This is one of those movies that, even after you see it, you still kinda forget about what goes on in the film. I really like the sudden changes in lighting, too. It's like almost, like, whether or not it was intentional, it is just an interesting kind of change, how it goes from the red and blue to just the regular lighting. But, shit, I have lost my train of thought. And here he goes. Oh. And how is a mosquito biting him through that really thick, like, sweater? Like, that is a thick sweater. Shit, I have completely lost my train of thought on this one, guys.
I must say, Doug, Something you conjure up, you did a pretty good job.
I used to work in a restaurant. I feel like this movie could be the next Plan 9 or the next The Room, if it would just get enough recognition, and if it wasn't for the fact that this film was shot on 8mm. The fact that this film was shot on 8mm and it is so surreal, I think is one of the reasons people don't really like it and can't get into it. I mean, you really have to be into shot on 8mm, and you have to really be into shot on 8mm, shot on video films, in order to watch and enjoy movies like this. Like, the only reason I can enjoy something like this is because the first shot on video film I ever watched was Video Violence, which I think is probably one of the best shot on video horror films ever made. I think would be probably the best example of shot on video horror, as well as probably one of the best like I said, best shot on video films ever made. So I started off very strong. I didn't start off with I mean, although gore horror is decently made, I wouldn't say it's great, but gore horror is probably an example of shot on video films that I didn't really like, or that I thought were, or that I think are subpar at best. But since I started with one of the most famous ones of all time, which is Video Violence, I kind of have come to love the shot on video horror genre. And I've come to realize that even though a good amount of them turn out to be slashers and stuff like that, with it being like Video Violence and Cannibal Campout, there are also ones like The Basement, which are interesting, like surreal. Hey, George Romero. This is the part where they talk about George Romero and just go straight up like, hey, we love George Romero and we love Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead and Creepshow, but uh, you know, I did, even though the shot on video genre is very limited within subgenres. I mean, there are like shot on video zombie films, there are shot on video slasher films, but those are two of the bigger ones. I mean, there's some shot on video, shot on 8mm, like anthology films. There's some supernatural films, some science fiction films. This being one of them. Speaking of dubbing over stuff, there's actually a film that exists. I'm not going to say the title because I can't remember it, and B, it is really long, but it is a comedy film where the director of this film literally took Night of the Living Dead because it is a public domain film, and George Romero does not have the rights, technically does not have, like, the licensing rights to the film. He,
I read a story once something weird like
again, the changes in the volume of this film and the changes in lighting, but he basically removed all the audio from the film, all the music, replaced it and redubbed the film all by himself and turned it into a comedy film about people who are just like get sick of their jobs and start killing each other. And it isn't great, but I would honestly say it is worth at least one watch. It's interesting enough.
on his fishing rod.
But
When he was young, they all bothered him because he was thin as a toothpick.
I'm pretty sure
As he
this,
got older,
like some of these parts right here actually have the original audio, and then there are some parts of it later and earlier in the film, obviously, that are redubbed.
then the other slashed his stomach open with a machete.
Slashed his stomach open with a machete.
Die. Blows from head.
Ate his liver with a side of fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Every time, the boys never seen him smile. At that instant, out of the flames of hell, a large serpent-like beast burst out of Harold's bloody stomach. It devoured both killers. and proceeded to consume everyone.
I like how they mentioned this when they. I know like this one was shot on a low budget, but I think it would have been really cool to have seen this story like as he was narrating it, being told in actual like film with this kid being killed and then a monster popping out of his stomach and killing the killers and stuff like that. I really would have been. I really thought that would have been cool.
Sit there and tell them some weird story that you read in some sci-fi novel.
Some sci-fi novel?
I didn't mean no harm by it.
I didn't mean I did not hit her. I did not. I swear to God, this is like the shot on 8mm equivalent of The Room. It is
I'm sorry, Doug.
beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film. Wow, we are 30 minutes into this audio commentary. I'm surprised I have not run out of things to talk about. And you know what? This is only like the first 30 minutes of the film. This is only like a small segment of this film. It has yet to get like extremely surreal and interesting, even though it is already very, very surreal and weird and interesting. It has not actually reached its peak of just absolute off the wall weirdness. But I appreciate you guys joining me for this audio commentary. This is the first one I've ever done, actually, and I thought it would be a cool little thing. And honestly, I'm having quite a bit of fun just watching one of my favorite bad movies of all time, and basically just giving thoughts on it as I watch it, giving some interesting facts and stuff like that. So, oh, excuse me. Damn, my Coke is on the other side of the room. And I really don't want to get up and like get it, but the ice in it is melting and it's getting watered down, so I kind of have to. So I'm just gonna go over here and just
That guy should be locked up for good. He's got a criminal mind. He's evil. He should be dead. Oh, give me a beer.
Well, actually, it's not Coke. It's Pepsi.
Hey, what happened? The lights went out.
Hey, what happened? The lights went red.
Relax. Listen, man.
Like, the lighting in this movie is just absolutely great. I think the director of, I think it was the director of Hobo with a Shotgun, in the interviews on this DVD, said it best when he said, people often say, like, the last, like, 15 minutes of Suspiria are like a nightmare on film. This entire movie is like some really fucked up fever dream captured on film. I'd also like to mention that in this scene, Amber Lynn is obviously reading off like a script off screen and trying not to make it obvious. But by trying not to make it obvious, she's making it obvious. Also, these cuts to this other guy is just like, it's really awkward. And the audio in it, in these scenes, are just really weird, and I feel like they literally just threw this in because they were like, oh, we got Amber Lynn, but she doesn't want to get covered in blood or get attacked by a monster or something. Oh. The third, fourth, and fifth dimension. That's also probably one of my favorite scenes, when Fred just absolutely disappears into just nothingness for literally almost the rest of the movie. But I like how they got Amber Lynn for this movie, and they couldn't, like, at least as far as I know, they couldn't get her to, like, actually be in it. So they were just like, okay, how can we got Amber Lynn, but she won't actually be in our movie. She won't, like, get covered in blood or anything, so let's just make her be a newscaster and just have her randomly cut into the film at, like, really weird and awkward and just pace-breaking times in order to just have her in the film so people will see it. And then nobody saw this movie. You see, with this lighting, and with the lighting, like, being red, it's kind of hard to tell that he has blood on him at all in this scene. And I think it's funny that Andrew Jordan, at this point in his life, I think he was in his, like, early 20s. He was already balding quite a bit, and now he's just kind of got that, like, bald on the top of the head, but the rest of his head is just, like, full of hair kind of look now. He still looks like he, at least, you know, last time I saw pictures of him, he still looked like he did. He still looked very familiar.
For myself. That's pretty disgusting stuff from down under their face in the car. He's did that before he tortured her.
What the hell? My niece did that before he tortured and ate her? I didn't know that. I don't remember ever hearing that line in this movie, but, it's here in this movie.
No, you change the pieces later.
It is here.
Dangerous now.
Shit, man. I like how he's still walking around shirtless. Like, they couldn't just have a scene where he goes get a shirt. He goes and gets a shirt.
There ain't no fears, dumbbell.
You called the guy Dumbbell.
Everyone alive in this house don't obey, no fears.
Anyone alive? There's only one dead person in the house, though. You know, I've just realized something. This is, like, considered to be, like, a gore film, and it's considered to be pretty gory. And honestly, I would say it's decently, like, gory at times. But, but, you know, surprisingly, there was only, like, if you include, well, if you don't include, like, the Amberlynn and the news guy and, like, those news scenes, there are only about, like, 4 or 5 cast members in this film, if you really think about it. So, there isn't actually much gore at all. Also, I like how they're drinking fucking whiskey out of, paper cups. You know, I guess that's how they do it in, Canada. I've actually never been to Canada. I've been interested in visiting the country. I've actually only been outside of the U.S. once, and that was last November of 2015. Fred! Even though he literally just disappeared, he went to go get help. But he's dead. that acting though, god damn this movie. But yeah, no, I went to Mexico. That was interesting. Everybody in Mexico is just trying to get you drunk, especially in the touristy areas. They're always trying to get you drunk in order to make you to spend more money. Is that what they? That isn't even whiskey they poured on. This budget was so low in this movie that they didn't even want to waste the whiskey to pour on the guy's head, so they just poured water on his head.
I didn't hear nothing at all. I just didn't want you to pour any whiskey on me.
Oh, it's just a prank, bro.
Train of thought, didn't I?
Whoa, what's that? It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank, bro. Chill out.
That is my fucking arm, man!
There's a hair on your arm.
There's a tongue flesh.
It's just a prank, bro. Chill out. Is that dead yet? Is that thing dead? I mean, I don't want it to be dead. That thing, you know, saying it's just a prank, bro. Because I always thought that was kind of a funny thing, but still.
Might be some of those ugly creature things in there.
I like how they know that there are these mutant demon creature, like, alien interdimensional monsters that are dwelling in the house. And they're just like, hey, let's go to the bathroom. And they're just, well, before they were like, hey, let's go to the bathroom shirtless. They're just like, hey, let's chill out for a bit and drink whiskey and pull pranks and then pour whiskey on each other's heads. And then now it's going to reach the kind of Lord of the Rings level of just going to, like, seriously, going to the, like, just them going to the bathroom in this film is like walking to the volcano in Lord of the Rings. It is that much of an epic adventure that you will never forget unless you watch this film while drinking heavily, which I will admit is probably one of the only ways to watch this movie with a group of friends and enjoy it. Honestly, I can watch it. I can There are people out there who say you can't watch bad movies by yourself and enjoy them, but I beg to differ. I can sit down and enjoy a bad movie like this. Those just macro shots. I like how they were in like a hallway, and then they're like, and then suddenly they're just back in the kitchen again, and there's an ant thing that has the flashlight. I like how these things that are in this movie, these monsters, these ants, they're never really explained exactly what they are. I kind of like that. I mean, I'm not saying this movie has to absolutely explain everything, like, and I'm not saying that it doesn't have to explain anything either, because I feel like it not being explained, it doesn't, like, it's not like how I like things being unexplained in horror movies like this, like monsters and stuff being unexplained in horror movies. It's not like how it is usually when I like it unexplained. In this one, I like it unexplained because if they were to try to explain it, it would be things too, or it would probably make sense somehow. Knowing the makers of this movie, they would somehow find a way to make the origin of these things makes sense, and then that would kind of ruin the whole nonsensical weird flow of the movie. I'm also just now realizing how fucking huge that flashlight is. Either that flashlight is really big, or his hands are really, really small. Because even in America, security guards don't have flashlights that big. And I mean, I get this was the 80s, but I've seen smaller flashlights with that much power in 80s movies before. So it must be a Canadian thing. Having big flashlights is a Canadian thing, apparently. Again, like I said, this is a Lord of the Rings level adventure to the bathroom that one shall never forget. I mean, look at this. They're literally trying to get to the bathroom. Meanwhile, the lighting keeps changing, and they're just kind of looking up and down and waving the flashlight at a door. Like, and I think it's funny because they're like trying to find their way to the bathroom, trying to get to the bathroom, and they're shining the light on the ceiling and stuff, like almost as if they are drunk. And I mean, let's be honest, they were drunk when they dubbed the film. I'm sure they were drunk when they actually shot the film, but they're just kind of waving this flashlight around, and it's like, one of these guys lives here. The other one is the guy's brother. You'd think he would know where the bathroom is. I'm sure he sees his brother often. I mean, he knows where the kitchen is, so why wouldn't he know where the bathroom is? But again, I'm thinking logically, and this is Things we're talking about. The movie that was shot on 8mm on a budget of like $3,000, and then in interviews that Barry Gillis did on the news on news channels to advertise the film, he literally said, "Oh, well, the budget is pretty small," and he tried to dodge the question many times. And then when they actually made him answer, he said it was like a budget of like $30,000, which that is far from what the budget on this film was. Honestly, like the budget to I'm sure the budget to like something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was probably bigger than the budget to this film. I don't want to look it up right now because I'm recording an audio commentary track right now, but like, there's no dialogue and no music, just weird Suspiria-esque lighting, guys waving flashlights around and scratching on doors and doing random shit while trying to find the bathroom. Like, this is a cabin in the woods. This is a small cabin in the woods. This is not a mansion. You're not gonna get lost here. Although, with the way that they kind of shot this film, it almost seems like this cabin in the woods is big enough to get lost in. Which is something I'm actually trying to accomplish with film. With the script I've had written for a few years, but with a film I'm trying to get funded right now, I'm not going to reveal too many details, but I need a location that is abandoned and that looks at least big enough on the outside to look like you could get lost in. And it seems like with how this film was shot, it almost seems, I'm sure this is unintentional, but it almost seems like that with the shot of the outside being very dark, you can't really see the full building. That and the fact that the interior shots are all from different angles, using different lighting, it almost all looks like it was shot with the intention of making it look like this is like a never-ending kind of purgatory, hell, alternate dimension version of this cabin in the woods, which is kind of a feeling I'm trying to go for with this film I'm working on. But before I can really do this film, I'm gonna need some funding, and I'm gonna need to see if the cast members that I had listed for this film are still up for going on a road trip and filming and doing a film over the course of a weekend at an abandoned building. I gotta make sure they're still cool with that. And I also gotta get some lights and maybe a new camera. Finally, they make it to the bathroom. I think this has probably been about 15 minutes since they initially set out to go towards the bathroom, and they just now make it. And I'm not gonna lie, if you were to tell somebody, hey, in this movie, there's literally a 15-minute long scene of just two guys trying to find the bathroom in this small house, in this small cabin in the woods, somebody would probably say, oh, you're crazy, you're bullshitting, you're lying. But no, that is fact, and it is beautiful in a sense. I also like how they only had like two of these little things, of these little ant creature monsters, so they just kind of used them in different ways. They just kind of used them in different ways. They just kind of kept reusing them until until the scene towards the end where they actually had to make it seem like there was a whole army of these things in the house. But currently it is almost 1 in the fucking morning, and I'm still recording this audio commentary track. We are about 46 minutes. I say 46 minutes, but I'm putting an intro before this thing to make sure that when you play this, you know where to start the commentary, where to play the video. He's picking up that hammer. This guy is I don't even know what the other guy is doing. He's like tearing up something. I think those are shotgun shells. And now he's getting knives, and the other guy's got a hammer, and now they're just ready to. Now they just suddenly know, oh, we gotta kill absolutely just fucking everything here. Even though there's only one or two of these things here in reality. And really, we're just crazy in a mental institution. Plot twist of the century. Actually, the first plot twist in movie history, which I will not say what that plot twist is. I will not say what that is, the plot twist to, because it is a plot twist to a very famous horror film. And it is one of the first plot twists in movie history, actually. But I will not spoil it, because it's from a very, very great movie. But here they are, they're finally going into the basement, which I think this is the point where they actually start to fight these things.
Emergency lights on anyway, look.
The emergency lights. Again, it's like this place is like some kind of McMansion, but it is. And then they just hang one of the ants from the ceiling. Like, as a filmmaker, I really hope one day to make a movie this bad. You see, in here they basically had to just basically make two more of these monsters. Just to they're putting the fuses in to get the power back on. I'm just now realizing this. There. That fucking scream is so perfect too. I love it. they had to make like 2 more of these ant monsters to at least make it seem like there were that there was actually more than just 2 in the entire movie. And honestly, I mean, if you were to try to make like, I would like to see like a big budget Hollywood remake of this film. Even though I said earlier that they couldn't do a big budget version of this, but a big budget Hollywood remake that isn't as like surreal and weird, and it's a bit more straightforward and things are explained. I feel like I would like to see something like that, or like a decent budget like, independent film remake of it. I would also like to see that. That would be a really interesting little film, kind of like the same amount of budget they had for like the Maniac remake. I also like here how these monsters bleed, and they're like, it looks like mushed up like blueberry pie. Wow, we are 50 minutes in, people. 50 minutes. Let's see. Well, 50 minutes into the actual. Again, I'm putting an intro. I already made the intro before this, as I'm recording this, but I say this isn't recording, but yeah, no, we are actually about 50 minutes into the movie, into the actual movie. There's only about 40 minutes or so left. Well, actually, there's only about no. This is. It says on the back of this movie that this movie is only 85 minutes. Yet it says when I press the thing for it, that shows the runtime of the film overall. It says an hour and 34 minutes. Ooh, that was a risky one. But yeah, no, I'm surprised I've actually been able to talk this entire time without running out of things to talk about. I mean, I have lost my train of thought a couple times, and I have gone silent a couple times to actually watch the movie because I do genuinely like this movie, even if it is absolutely just terrible. Although I feel like something like this can never be duplicated. It's like lightning in a bottle. It just can't be done. I also kind of like how they kind of use this kind of stylized blue and red lighting for when the power is out in this cabin in the woods again. That doesn't look like the interior doesn't look like a cabin in the woods. It looks like a suburban household. But it's kind of interesting. That's how they kind of stylized it being dark. Again, much like in Suspiria. And suddenly the guy that he hit in the head with a hammer is alive again, and there's monster attacking. Mm. I like how chill the music is right there. And then one of the ant monsters attacks his hand after attacking his neck. Oh man, that's totally not a fake hand. uh, I just absolutely love this film. Oh wow, I'm just now getting that reference to Evil Dead 2 that they just made in the film Give Me Back My Hand, which is what Ash said after his hand was possessed by Deadite after his hand was bitten by the severed head of his girlfriend in Evil Dead 2. Which, in my personal opinion, Evil Dead 2, while very good, and Army of Darkness, also extremely good movie. I feel that I feel like the first Evil Dead movie is easily the best of the series.
Oh, the blood is just dripping like maple syrup. Oh, oh, so much blood.
Oh, so much blood! And then he finally dies.
You're dead.
You're dead!
You're dead.
You're dead!
No way. No way am I gonna let the creatures eat you alive. You're coming with me.
I like how he says, you're dead, no way I'm gonna let these creatures eat you alive. Like, seriously, this film has no writing at all, yet the writing is hilarious. I'm gonna throw you in this closet so they won't eat you.
Smart words. Oh, that should do it.
I like how goddamn, getting tongue twisted all the time. I really like the theme song for this movie. It's kind of like the theme song the main theme to Cannibal Holocaust. It's a very interesting, kind of chill, peaceful sounding song for a film that is absolutely just fucking insane. I mean, Cannibal Holocaust is an extremely brutal film and everything, but this film is like, if you watch Cannibal Holocaust on acid. I feel like if you watch Cannibal Holocaust on acid while trying to watch like The Evil Dead and maybe I don't know what's a good like little creature kind of movie other than of course Gremlins. Maybe Ghoulies or Elves. If you're trying to watch like all three of those movies at once, I feel like while on acid, I feel like this is what would come of it. Okay, this is where he finds the dead dog that died literally an hour ago in this film. And he is just vomiting his absolute guts out. God damn. We are almost at a full hour here. I like how he's trying to, like in this scene with the drill, he's trying to imitate, well, kind of trying, at least to me. It seems like he's trying to imitate the famous scene with Leatherface swinging around the chainsaw, holding it above his head, waving it around, swinging it around especially at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I feel like that's what they're trying to imitate here. And he's just like has this drill, and he's just like fist bumping with this drill. Also, absolutely destroying this ant monster, tearing it to absolute pieces. And it's almost beautiful in a way. I like how I couldn't figure out how to plug it back in, too. So he just fucking gives up. Again, still in that big-ass sweater. I mean, I'm sure that's gotta be, like, really fucking hot. Also, I would just like to mention, reached the maximum recording time, so I had to rewind and stop, and I realized that the TV was pretty loud in my recording. I'm not going to re-record the whole audio commentary track because I'm too fucking lazy. So, I'll just continue basically from where I originally left off, but I did officially reach an hour length, which is very, very cool. But I'm pretty sure this is basically where I had left off. The sink is dripping, and the door is showing shots of the door, and the painting, so, and the drinking bird. So, this is basically where I am. Sink again. I'm really sorry. I did not expect this to, expect that to happen, but that totally did fucking happen, and that is a pain in the ass. But here we go, Amber Lynn cutting in again. This film. Honestly, I would like to see a version of this film with Amber Lynn just completely cut out. While I do kind of like the scenes with Amber Lynn because it just kind of like comes out of nowhere and it's kind of funny and it's abruptness, and just how quick it happens and how quick it ends. I would also like to see, and they're actually, and they just kind of do that, just stack up like the ants on top of each other just to take a few scenes here and there. But there we go. Fred is finally back from the third, fourth, and fifth dimension, and he's been massacring these things the entire time while Barry was asleep. And the blood is getting everywhere. I have turned down the TV a bit more, just so it does not show up in the recording. I like how you can see him like hitting the bug, and you can see that this is like foam. Like it's made out of like foam and plastic and latex. I also really like how these ant monsters just kind of you never see them move. So my theory is that they don't actually move; they just teleport. They just kind of teleport around in random places and just appear. But this is probably one of my all-time favorite scenes coming up here, where goddamn. Pretty sure it's almost here the scene where somebody dies and it's like just absolutely just the best fucking thing ever. For those, I've heard people say that this movie isn't a comedy because there's no actual attempts in this film to be funny. It's more of an unintentional comedy. But I do get the feeling while watching this movie there are a few scenes that are actually meant to be humorous. Probably one of the biggest examples of the film actually trying to be funny is in an upcoming scene where basically somebody gets eaten, but I'll leave that for later. Ooh, excuse me. Again, these things, you don't see these ant things move, so I'm going to assume they teleport around. Also, I like how this guy's just Fred's just like, oh, everywhere with a chainsaw, and meanwhile you can't hear the chainsaw on. It's almost like the audio was completely lost. They didn't feel like, adding in some audio of a chainsaw. Well, here there's some bit of audio, but earlier there wasn't. Man, the puppetry in this movie rivals the original. Get out! Ah! But the puppetry in this film rivals the first Puppet Master movie. The puppetry is just absolutely beautiful. It is some of the best shit I have ever seen in film history. And it's literally the same. The fingers in this scene are literally the same. Are literally the fingers from the severed hand from way early in the film. But they just kind of cut off the fingers. At least that's what it looks like. Honestly, I feel like that's what they did. And they just put like a firecracker in the mouth of the ant monster just to make it look like there's sparks coming off the wire. Here it is. This scene where they didn't show Fred being actually eaten, and he's just like yelling, "They're eating me! They're eating me!" And just saying a bunch of random shit about, oh, they can replace anything. They got robotic body parts now at the hospital. Get me to the hospital. I feel like that was honestly put in there to be funny. Or maybe it was just because they thought it was funny. Maybe it's just because they thought it was actually funny when they were just doing the dub, and it was actually meant to be and it was actually just meant to be a not you fucker come back here with my eyeball. But it was actually they just thought, hey, let's make this scene funny, even though because we're absolutely drunk and we don't know the difference. It looks like a Smurf just splooged on the guy's fucking face, too. They're eating me! You know, and then he opens the door and, like, just here it is. And over there. Like, honestly, I feel like that was actually put in to be intentionally funny. Which, with how bad this movie turns out to be, it actually is kind of funny. But, you know, he opens the door, and it's just a skull kind of shaking on the ground. And the jaws moving and the eyeballs looking around. He's like, help me. You know, he's still alive, even though he is just a skull with an eyeball, and he's calling the other guy shithead. I feel like that was honestly put in there to be comedic in the first place. But now the sun has risen. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. And much like Evil Dead, there is only one survivor. And then here comes the doctor guy who basically caused this whole thing with these monsters inside Donna, the Susan, not Donna. Where the fuck am I getting Donna from? Susan's womb, because one guy couldn't get her pregnant, and he talked to the devil lady with the 70s, not 70s, but 80s bush. That's quite the bush. It is quite the jungle in there. Oh God, what a horrible mess. Like, I really hope one day as a filmmaker, to make a movie this bad. But the thing is, it's hard to make a movie this perfectly bad without it being unintentional. That's human blood. You're the madman. I also like how all the creatures have disappeared, kind of making it like, oh, it was all in the guy's head and he actually killed everybody. But honestly, I honestly feel like this movie is surreal enough without them pulling the, oh, it was all in the main guy's mind card. So, again, it's been a while since I watched this. And I watch a lot of movies. But man, there's quite a bit of blood on the walls in this film. Blood, and then he just waits like a full fucking minute to say, and guts. I like how he's like, you committed these murders, didn't you? And he's just like picking up the guy's guts and stuff. It's like, if it's like if you want to be the guy who reports him, why would you pick up the guts and like fondle them? Who the fuck are you, Jeffrey Dahmer? Oh, who was a Canadian serial killer who liked to fuck corpses? Because I'm sure that there was a Canadian necrophiliac serial killer. This is what this audio commentary track has become. But man, this is See, I feel like once it reaches like this point of the film, it's like it officially has kind of reached the point where it's not as like weird anymore. So it kind of starts to slow down like the beginning, like how the beginning of the film was kind of slow but still weird. This is where it reaches that point where again it's slow but weird, and then he hides in the closet. Wow, the music right here is just like, it sounds like something from the Worm Eaters soundtrack. Is this actually where the film ends? I've actually been waiting and waiting to actually use this line, but to actually use this line, but this is one of those movies that is like so bad that it isn't really a movie, it's more of an experience. And I think the filmmakers knew this at the end because again, it's not the end of the movie yet. I want to reach the ending before I use this line, because I use this to say this because it's just perfect. You know, he passes out in the closet and he comes out. Yeah, no, I've already officially used it way too early. There's still a bit more to go. And then you see the exterior of the cabin that they were in, and you see that it is actually very small. Again, leading to my, at least, theory that, although this film is very unintentionally surreal, it still is, I feel like that when when the lights went out, they kind of entered an alternate kind of Twilight Zone-esque dimension, where everything was the same, but it was slightly off, ever so slightly. And, it's just running through the river, rolling on the river. Oh no, I don't want to get a copyright strike. Where's the fair use? Hashtag where's the fair use? Goddamn. Surprised, surprised this movie went on this long. Like, honestly, I would have just ended it, like, as soon as he went to the closet. Oh yeah, he tries to get help from somebody. God, he's just... White men can't jump. Again, you still got that thick-ass sweater on. You could have taken it off at any time. Yeah, that's what really happened. Let's go to the police. And you got yourself in a tailspin. I've actually run out of things to talk about. You know, these shots right here kind of remind me of Necromantic. Outdoors, kind of surreal outdoor scenes in Necromantic, where like the main character Rob, like half of his face is like rotted to show like his soul kind of, or his like spirit, or his like him as a person basically being slowly destroyed or something like that. It's Necromantic is fucking awesome. Another awesome kind of 80s B movie, but in a whole other league of just bad, of just really good bad movie making and fucked upness. Like, because while cheesy, Necromantic is entertaining as hell. While cheesy, it's still not entertaining, but interesting and disturbing. And this film, while cheesy as hell, is only entertaining and not really disturbing or anything like that. And completely forgot that the Doctor comes back as a zombie. I completely forgot that that was a subplot that they just kind of threw in. Kind of like the, although I guess it started getting spoiled to death, so I may as well say. The ending to Pieces, when the girl that has been constructed of body parts reaches up and grabs the main character's testicles and just crushes them. Like, that was really, that's just an awesome, unexpected as hell ending to a slasher film. And this is an extremely unexpected kind of ending to oh yeah, and then there's an ant behind him. Unexpected ending to a film like Things. Okay, here we are. You know, they always say that there are some movies, whether it be Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, but they're movies that are experiences. This film is Thing. This film Things. This is an experience. They knew this when they made this film because they put "You have just experienced things" at the very, very tail end of this thing. So we are now reaching the audio, not the audio commentary, but the end credits of this film. So this is where I say goodbye. This is actually quite a bit of the cast is actually bigger than I remember. But anyway, guys, they knew this when they made this movie, that this movie was bad, and I get the feeling that they knew that, and I'm pretty sure that's why they put "You just experience things," because when it comes to a movie as bad as Things, it is not. Oh goddamn! It is not a movie as much as it is an experience, and it is one that I think just about everybody should enjoy. But anyway, guys, this is no longer Biscutbuu69. I've actually changed my YouTube channel name. This is Biscutbuu Horror Reviews, signing off for my very first audio commentary, and probably not the last. Peace.